A black man dressed simply walked into the elegant lobby of a high-end hotel to check in for a room. Suddenly, a receptionist refused to serve him. They looked down on him, subtly mocked him, and even a manager called for security to watch him closely. But everything changed when he quietly pulled out a single key card. What happened next would stun the entire hotel staff. Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear your voice. A crisp fall breeze swept through the entrance of Sterling Heights Hotel in downtown Chicago, rustling a few golden leaves across the sleek stone pathway. Under the polished silver sign that read, "A Crestwood Property," a tall black man stood quietly. He appeared to be in his early 60s, his posture steady, his face etched with the marks of age and long journeys. Gray hair peeked from beneath his simple knit cap, and his deep brown eyes carried a quiet wisdom. He gazed at the sign for a long moment, as if wondering if this place still held a piece of him. Then he stepped inside. Marcus Grant didn't carry a luxurious leather suitcase or wear a tailored overcoat, just a worn navy jacket, its cuffs frayed from years of use. A faded messenger bag, heavy with papers, hung across his shoulder. His steps were soft, almost silent on the polished marble floors. No one in the lobby paid him any attention. Marcus had helped create places like this with vision, not materials. He imagined Sterling Heights as a haven of refined comfort and genuine care, where every guest felt valued, where prejudice had no foothold. His body ached from hours of travel, his mind clouded. All he craved was a warm shower and a soft bed. But he moved slowly, his eyes tracing the soaring ceilings, the soft ivory tones, the oak-paneled check-in desk he had once sketched. His hand grazed its smooth, cool surface. Behind the desk stood a young woman, intensely focused on her screen. Her blonde hair was tied back in a tidy ponytail, her face carefully made up, accentuating bold red lips and manicured nails that clicked rapidly on the keyboard. Marcus offered a polite nod. "Good evening." She glanced up, her sharp, slightly weary eyes scanning his plain jacket and bag. For a moment, she froze. Then came the practiced smile, smooth, controlled, straight from the employee handbook. "How may I assist you, sir?" "I'm checking in. Name's Marcus Grant." She typed quickly, nails tapping softly. 10 seconds, 20. A faint frown creased her brow, and she looked up, her polite mask slipping into impatience. "I'm not finding a reservation under that name. Did you book through an online platform?" Her tone was flat, almost dismissive. "No, the room's under the internal block," Marcus said calmly. She blinked, her brows knitting as she tilted her head. "Internal block?" "The executive block," he clarified. "A suite reserved for founders and senior leadership." Her eyebrows lifted slightly. It wasn't a request she heard often, especially not from someone without a sharp suit or an entourage. Her tone shifted, her face tightening with polite skepticism. She was clearly forming a judgment. "I'll fetch the shift manager," she said, her voice now sharp with irritation. Marcus nodded. He didn't mind waiting. He wanted to see how far this would go before someone recognized what truly mattered. A minute later, Claire Thompson, the manager, emerged from the back office. Tall, poised, her auburn hair swept into a sleek chignon. She wore a crisp navy blazer, her name tag glinting on her lapel. Her presence dominated the space. "I'm Claire, tonight's shift manager. I understand there's an issue with your check-in." Her voice was brisk, professional, but edged with impatience, as her eyes quickly sized up Marcus. He calmly explained his need for the executive block suite. Claire nodded curtly, a rehearsed motion, then checked the system with a younger clerk. Minutes later, she returned empty-handed. "I'm sorry, Mr. Grant," she began, her words polished but cold. "As my colleague noted, We're fully booked tonight due to a tech summit. Without a pre-registered confirmation, even internal partners can't be accommodated. We have no rooms available." Her words were textbook policy, but her eyes, cool, calculating, subtly dismissive, spoke volumes. They lingered on his worn jacket and messenger bag, silently signaling she had already judged him unworthy. Both women showed no intention of finding a solution. Marcus didn't respond. He simply observed. Claire held her professional smile, but doubt was firm in her gaze. "Are you sure you're not mistaking us for another Crestwood property?" she added lightly, a veiled hint that he was mistaken, or perhaps trying to mislead them. Marcus stayed silent. He didn't need to speak. His appearance didn't match their image of an executive block guest. They were judging what they saw, not what he said. At that moment, the glass doors slid open, and a young couple entered the lobby. They exuded effortless wealth. The man, clean-cut and dressed in a tailored charcoal suit, radiated quiet confidence. The woman beside him, carrying a designer tote, smiled brightly. Their steps were buoyant, their faces glowing with the promise of a relaxed evening. Instantly, the front desk came alive. The bellhop, who had just snickered at Marcus, sprang forward, a wide grin spreading across his face. "Welcome, welcome," he called, grabbing their sleek luggage. "Let me take those for you, sir." Claire's posture straightened, her smile now warm and genuine. She leaned over the counter, her voice dripping with charm, a stark contrast to the curt tone she'd used with Marcus. "Welcome to Sterling Heights. We've been expecting you, Mr. Peterson. I believe we've upgraded your suite to a skyline penthouse, compliments of the house." She motioned toward the elevators, her eyes sparkling as she handed them shiny key cards. The young receptionist, mirroring Claire's enthusiasm, quickly offered the couple glasses of cucumber-infused water, practically doting on them. "Is there anything else we can do for you?" she chirped, completely ignoring Marcus, who sat quietly by a pillar. Marcus watched the scene unfold. He wasn't envious. He had poured his soul into this place, designed it so every guest, no matter how weary or unassuming, would be welcomed like family. That was the vision. He had written the training manual himself, stressing empathy and universal respect. He believed in a hotel where excellence meant no guest ever felt less valued. But tonight, he was a stranger in his own creation, unseen in the halls he had helped shape. The warm welcome given to others simply for fitting the part deepened the sting of betrayal. He overheard the receptionist whisper to her colleague, "He doesn't look like a penthouse guest at all." A burly bellman, his uniform tight across his frame, his eyes glinting with jaded amusement, passed by. He chuckled softly, probably just looking for a cheap room. Years ago, Marcus had told the first class of Crestwood managers, a principle he hoped would define their hospitality. True respect isn't how you treat a guest when they demand attention. It's how you treat them before you know who they are. Today, he was here, a quiet test, to see if they had learned that lesson. Marcus sat calmly by the marble pillar, hands folded over his worn bag. He wanted to see how long it would take for someone in this polished, impersonal place to remember what true hospitality meant, what he had designed it to mean. He wasn't angry, not yet, but a familiar ache settled in his chest, the kind you feel when the place you helped build no longer knows your name or face. The casual dismissal he had just faced was a bitter reminder of how far Sterling Heights had strayed from its original purpose. Claire returned from behind the counter, her steps stiff, her frame held with almost military precision. Her earlier polite smile was gone, replaced by a cool, clipped tone, the kind used to manage trouble while maintaining control. "Sir, we have service standards," she said, aiming for firmness but keeping her voice low to avoid attention. "We don't discriminate here. I hope you understand. We have procedures to follow." She wasn't explaining. She was shielding the brand, covering herself, Her eyes flicked to an approaching security guard, a subtle signal of her growing unease. Marcus looked up, his dark eyes steady. "I'm not asking for special treatment," he said softly, his voice cutting through the forced calm. "I'm asking for accuracy." He wasn't trying to cause a scene. He had spent his life choosing calm over conflict, but being spoken down to in a lobby he had once envisioned sparked a quiet fire in his chest. Claire's lips tightened. She crossed her arms, a subtle shift signaling control. Her voice lowered, each word now tinged with a veiled threat. "If you're unable to confirm a reservation," she said, her tone stiff with discomfort and impatience, "we may need security to escort you out. It's protocol." It wasn't about safety, it was about assumptions. A man like him, alone, older, not dressed the part, looked more like an intruder than a founder. It was a failure of the values he had instilled. Marcus didn't react outwardly. His face remained calm, resolute. But inside, watching her dismiss him, something shifted. A quiet, almost imperceptible break. The last thread of his patience snapped, replaced by a fierce resolve to reveal the truth. He rose slowly from his chair, his movements deliberate. He walked purposefully back to the front desk, where Claire and the young clerk were still fawning over the affluent couple. He pulled out a silver key card. Its edges were worn, but the Crestwood emblem, a rising phoenix he had approved, still shone under the lobby's lights. He carried it not to impress, but to remind himself of what he had built and what it was meant to stand for. He reached the counter and, without a word, slid the card into the scanner, his fingers brushing the cool surface. Claire and the young clerk, startled by his approach, stopped mid-sentence. The scanner glowed green, a sharp contrast to the red light of earlier rejections. Access granted, founder tier. Then his name appeared in bold on the screen, unmistakable. Marcus Grant, founding partner. Claire stared at the screen, her professional mask shattering. Her jaw dropped, her face paling to a ghostly white. She stepped back, eyes wide with disbelief. The young clerk gasped softly, her eyes filled with shock and dawning horror, her manicured fingers frozen above the keyboard. No words, no immediate apology, just a profound stillness, as if they were trying to undo what had happened, to unsee what they saw, to unsay what they had said. The polite, dismissive air shattered, replaced by a chilling silence that screamed realization. The air crackled with dread. Marcus looked at neither of them. He stood there, his presence commanding the space, an undeniable force. In that overwhelming silence, one truth rang louder than any words. They had seen his worn jacket, his bag, his age, his skin, but they had never truly seen him. Just then, a new figure entered the lobby from the executive offices. James Carter, the regional director of operations, strode in, his tailored suit crisp, his steps swift and confident. His authoritative gaze swept the room, then froze on the screen displaying Marcus's name. His eyes snapped to Marcus, a flicker of surprise giving way to stark recognition. His confident demeanor softened, his eyes widening slightly. "Mr. Grant." James's voice, usually commanding, carried a rare reverence reserved for the top tier of the Crestwood Corporation. He stepped forward, extending a hand, his polished exterior cracking with genuine concern. "I'm so sorry, sir. I wasn't informed of your arrival. This is unacceptable." He shot a sharp, furious glance at Claire, who flinched, her shoulders hunching. Claire, trembling, stammered, "Mr. Carter, I was just—" Her voice broke off, a choked sound. The young clerk looked faint, her eyes darting between Claire, James, and Marcus. James didn't let her finish. He turned to Marcus, his demeanor shifting to deep respect, almost a bow. "Please, Mr. Grant, the founder's suite is ready for you. We'll have a bellhop take your bag immediately." He faced the young clerk, his voice a low growl cutting through the lobby's hum. "Get Mr. Grant's key, and upgrade him to the Grand Presidential Suite if it's available. If not, make it available." His eyes narrowed, a clear warning. The clerk, her face pale, fumbled with the keyboard, her nails now a hindrance. "Yes, Mr. Carter, right away." "So sorry, sir." She printed a new key card, her hands shaking as she handed it to Marcus. "Our deepest apologies, Mr. Grant. We didn't realize." Her gaze flicked to Claire, whose eyes were wide with terror, replaying every dismissive word and glance. The bellhop, who had laughed at Marcus, stood rigid, his cynical amusement replaced by fear. The weight of their mistake settled over them like a cold shroud. Marcus took the keycard, his fingers brushing the clerk's trembling hand. He offered no nod or acknowledgement, his expression unreadable. His presence alone was enough. He didn't linger. He turned, slow and silent, and headed toward the elevators. The lobby remained still, the fear and shock radiating from Claire and the clerk following him like a shadow. Their earlier condescension had dissolved into dread, replaced by the crushing weight of their misjudgment. James, with a quick apologetic nod to Marcus's retreating back, cornered Claire, his voice a harsh whisper. The young clerk rushed to summon a new bellhop, desperate to correct her mistake. Marcus reached the elevator and swiped his keycard. The soft ping as the doors opened was the only sound. He stepped inside, facing the doors as they closed, leaving the stunned lobby behind. As the elevator ascended, a familiar ache deepened in his chest, a weariness beyond travel fatigue. He closed his eyes, his palm against the cool elevator wall. The rhythmic hum of the machinery accompanied his memories. A vivid image flashed in his mind, a large framed photo in the executive wing hallway, capturing Sterling Heights' ribbon-cutting ceremony nearly 2 decades ago. 6 people stood smiling, hands on oversized scissors, banners and champagne in the background. His name was etched in gold on the placard below. Marcus Grant, founding partner. But his face was absent from the frame. He remembered the day vividly, the scent of fresh paint, the buzz of excitement. He had been there, of course. He had crafted the service philosophy displayed on plaques throughout the hotel. He had written the guest-first code, taught it, lived it. He believed in it wholeheartedly. But that day, he was asked to stand aside. He could still hear the PR manager's apologetic but firm whisper. "Marcus, we need a polished brand image. Can you support us from behind the scenes? The photos need to look cohesive for the media." Cohesive. The word they used to say he didn't fit the image, that his presence would disrupt the carefully curated picture. It was the first time Marcus realized you could build the stage, light it, hand everyone the mic, and still not be allowed to stand on it. He had accepted it then, quietly, for the sake of the larger mission. He told himself, "If I can create a place where others are seen, even if I'm not, it's worth it." He had buried the slight, focusing on the goal of true hospitality. But today, he had walked into his own vision and was treated like an outsider, dismissed not by one person, but by the very culture he helped build. The irony was bitter. His years of quiet dedication, of being the unseen force, had reached their breaking point. This couldn't continue. His hands tightened on his bag strap, the worn canvas pressing into his palm. He wasn't furious, but he was done being invisible, a ghost in his own legacy. The time for quiet acceptance was over. The elevator chimed, opening to the Grand Presidential Suite hallway's luxurious silence. He stepped out, the plush carpet muffling his footsteps. He thought of that photo, his erased legacy. Then he turned, not toward his suite, but toward the concierge desk by the lounge, his resolve firm. His voice was calm, but carried the undeniable weight of a man reclaiming his place. "I'd like to schedule a meeting tomorrow with the regional director and the head of culture." He was done waiting to be seen. He was ready to make them see. The meeting room was small, designed for quick strategy sessions and HR reviews, not confrontations. The lights were dim, not intentionally, but because no one had bothered to brighten them, casting long shadows that matched the room's heavy mood. Claire sat by the glass wall, her back rigid, her palms flat on the table, fingers gripping the edge to steady herself. Across from her stood Marcus, hands folded, his presence calm, focused, enduring. His quiet strength filled the room. James stood to his right, arms crossed, silent, his imposing figure underscoring the moment's gravity. The HR representative adjusted her glasses, her gaze shifting between Marcus and Claire, clearly out of her depth. Marcus's voice was soft, but weighted with years of unseen contributions. What did you expect a founder to look like? Claire's head lifted slowly, as if pulled by an invisible thread. Her lips parted, but no sound came. She blinked, her mind racing to grasp the depth of her mistake. Marcus didn't press, letting the question hang, a mirror reflecting their assumptions. He spoke to the room, his eyes fixed on Claire's. "On the day we opened this hotel," he said slowly, each word deliberate, heavy with quiet sorrow. "I sat at the back of the ballroom by the doors. I watched them deliver the keynote with words I wrote. The applause was loud, the lights warm, but no one said my name. No one saw me." His voice, soft but resonant, carried the echo of an old wound. A silence followed, honest, raw. "I'm not here to punish you," he continued, gentle but firm. "I'm here because I still believe in what this hotel could be, should be. I don't believe in retribution. What I want is for the next time you look at someone, judge them by their appearance or arrival, you pause before deciding who they are." He paused, his gaze softening but steadfast. True hospitality isn't about grand gestures for the powerful. It's about seeing the humanity in everyone, no matter their jacket or bag. The room was still, the silence now rich with introspection. James exhaled softly, a nod of silent approval. The HR director closed her notebook. No further notes needed. The lesson was etched deeper than paper. Marcus nodded slightly. "We're done." He left first, his steps quiet on the carpet, his presence leaving a lasting mark. James lingered, giving Claire a silent nod before following. The HR director gave Claire a brief look, neither pity nor judgment, but a shared understanding of the moment's weight, and left with a soft click of the door. Claire stayed, staring at a knot in the table's wood grain for nearly 20 minutes, replaying every interaction, every dismissive glance. The room's chill awakened her to her own blindness. A single unbidden tear traced down her cheek. Her ambition, her prized efficiency, felt hollow, exposed by the quiet wisdom of a man she had overlooked. That afternoon, in Marcus's suite, sunlight streamed through tall windows, casting soft stripes on the pristine carpet. The city's hum was faint, a backdrop to the room's quiet comfort. On a small desk beneath a black and white photo of the hotel's early days, a stark, honest image, was a folded note. No letterhead, just a torn page from a receptionist's notepad, slightly crumpled, written in careful cursive. "I will learn to see before I judge. Thank you, Mr. Grant, for opening my eyes. Claire." Weeks turned into months, and Sterling Heights transformed. Claire, once driven by rigid efficiency, now moved through the lobby with genuine awareness. Her gaze softened, seeing guests as individuals with unspoken needs. Her smile was warm, sincere. She greeted guests personally at the entrance, her questions heartfelt. The staff followed her lead. Bellhops moved with purpose, receptionists engaged with enthusiasm, and security guards became helpful guides. James Carter quietly oversaw these changes. Marcus Grant made occasional, unannounced visits, observing from quiet corners, watching the interactions, the light. Sometimes his eyes met Claire's across the marble floor, a silent nod of a shared vision being rebuilt. The hotel still shone, but now a new warmth radiated from its people, who finally understood the foundation Marcus had laid. A place built not just on luxury, but on the dignity of humanity, seen and valued without hierarchy. Sterling Heights was becoming what it was always meant to be. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.